Hello and welcome to this demonstration of Build Test Solutions Mould Risk Indicator with me, Dr. Richard Jack, the Technical Director. So the Mould Risk Indicator is a way of quantifying the mould risk in a property based on monitored internal temperature and relative humidity data. It's a calculator that lives in the cloud. We can upload data from lots of different types of sensors and get a quantification of the risk of mould in a property and a comparison with the recommended conditions in building regulations. So let's share a screen and bring up the mould risk indicator now. So here we see it. This is the dashboard, the page that you'll see when you log in. And you can see recent activity, the last couple of buildings that have been analysed in the calculator. And what I want to do today is analyse a new building. So this building is a 70s mid-terrace house that some residents have recently moved into, and it's got no mechanical ventilation in place, even extract fans, and they're wondering what the conditions are like now they've lived there for a while and what they need to do they need to improve their ventilation and what measures could they do. So let's create a new building. And we'll just fill in some details. First thing is the address. Let's put in our office address to not give away where this house is. And this is a 70s mid-terrace house. Pretty standard, early 70s build house. You can see I'm just putting in a bit of information about the building, mid-terrace. I already said it's got no ventilation in place. It has got new UPVC double glazing. There are 3 people living in this house. It has cavity walls. To be honest, I can't see inside them. I'm not sure if there's anything in there or not, but we've measured the U value and it's 1.1. So if there is any cavity wall insulation in there, it's not working properly. So now we've put in our information about the building. That's all you need to enter. If you don't have a measured U value, we could have the assumed U value for the property as well, based on the construction type. Obviously, that measurement gives you a little bit more precision on your analysis. Now we need to add some rooms. So I've just done some really basic monitoring in the living room. So that is indeed a living room. It's the same, the walls are the same age as the main wall, so it isn't an extension, a new build extension, for example, all the same as the main wall, so we can save. And I've also monitored in the bathroom. So now I've got my 2 rooms, save the building, and I'm going to go and upload some data and see what the mould risk is in those rooms. So no results found. Let's go and upload some data so the calculator's got something to analyze. So we're going to upload data for this house. Come in here, and it's a normal file upload. And I'll just select these 2 CSV files of data that have come straight from the sensor. The calculator, the user interface automatically recognized the 2 sets of data and the rooms that they're assigned to based on the room name in the file name title. Let's analyze all of this data. So we've got from the 1st of September until yesterday afternoon is when I took the sensors out. Just pick the sample of data that we want to analyze and then upload and calculate. So this is sending that data up into the cloud and running through the mould risk calculator algorithm. Now it's uploaded and we can see the results. We go back to the building page. Let's see. Okay, so I said it didn't have any ventilation, and you can see it needs some. So we've got really quite a high mould risk in the bathroom and a medium mould risk in the living room. And we're saying really high mould risk here. We should take steps to address the mould risk, particularly in the bathroom. Let's start with something positive or moderately positive. Let's have a look at the living room. So here we've got a medium mold risk overall. We've got our average room conditions here. It does actually pass all of the stipulations in Part F for surface water activity and indoor relative humidity. So it's complying with the recommended conditions in building regulations. But we still think there's a bit of a mold risk in here. And really, I'd say it needs more ventilation. Down here, we can see the mold risk on each day. And you can imagine mold is caused by an excess of, well, one of the causes would be an excess of moisture, and it likes to grow in warm conditions. And that could change each day depending on what you're doing in the room. And you can see that here. We've got some days which are particularly high risk and some which are lower risk. You might imagine these are days where they might have been away, for example, so not generating that moisture in the building. And it's pretty consistent that there is some risk of mold on each day. We can also see all of the data that we've input here, so the temperature, relative humidity. So I would be thinking that it's not an urgent room that needs attention, but we do have a mold risk in here, and it would benefit from, in this case, I think, increased ventilation, given that we know it doesn't have any mechanical ventilation. Now let's go and have a look at the bathroom. So bathrooms, obviously a lot more moisture generation, higher risk of mold in general, and that's borne out in the mold risk score we give here. So you can see it's out of 100, so almost you could think of it like a percentage, and we're in our very high category on our traffic light scale here. So we've got very high mold risk. We need to take steps to immediately address it. Again, additional ventilation, I think, is the thing to do here. If we look at our Part F compliance, we can see that we're failing on these criteria about month-long conditions. So that's not a surprise. We've got a high mold risk, and these stipulations are not too strict, but we can see that we're not complying with them. So we desperately need to make some sort of intervention in this room. And you can see that it's pretty consistent. And over the last few days, we're getting into October here. So it's likely that the windows are going to be closed more. It's getting colder outside, and the mold risk has increased to a really high level. So what I've got here is a way of quantifying the mold risk for the building, putting some numbers to it and understanding whether I need to do something in the building. And you can see in this case that I really do. There are a couple of buildings in this demo account already. So we could go back to the dashboard, perhaps. Have a look at some different buildings. Here's an 80s house that's had a light retrofit. And you can see here, it's not always bad. Here we've got sufficient ventilation for the conditions in the building, and we've got really low mold risk in every building, in every room rather, and they're in a good condition and not requiring any immediate actions. So it's a way of quantifying how much is the mold risk, comparing different buildings across an estate and understanding which ones need some attention and which ones don't. Thanks for joining. Just a quick demo of how the mold risk indicator works.